18 years of being utterly ordinary, I finally found that I could shine.
It's farewell to Edward and Bella, the vampire sweethearts who felt the need and did the deed. It's goodbye to Jacob Black, the topless little wolf boy, and it's even sayonara to the evil Volturi clan still intent on spoiling the party. It's the Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn, Part 2, and we shall never see its like again. Joining me now is the Guardian's very own Bella and Edward. It's Guardian film critic Peter Bradshaw and the film site editor Andrew Pulver. Peter, I seem to remember your review of the very first Twilight movie years and years ago. Yes. In which you kind of raved about it.
I did. It's incredible to think now, but that first movie, and in my innocence and naivety, I didn't quite grasp that it was a saga that was going to go on almost literally forever, but the sheer novelty of it struck me. And it's a very good story, without all the kind of trappings with which it has subsequently been invested. It's actually really good. Catherine Hardwicke did this great job. It looked fascinating. All the stuff about abstinence and sexuality and the way teens are sexualized, it seemed to have a lot of interesting, uncliched stuff to say about it. And yes, it was good. It was a really good film.
I'm sensing a but coming up.
But there's a massive, well, the but is provided by the franchise itself, but there were loads and loads of other films like that, entirely without its narrative interest, descending, unravelling into this kind of biblical Tolkien last battle, which all sagas and franchises have to go in for in the end. And it just, for me, it really kind of deteriorated. And there was no, I don't know, there are flashes of fun and flashes of wit in this last movie, definitely. But all the stuff in the first movie about her pals, her mates, the kind of losers and the dorks that she hung around with, there was lots of fun like that in the first movie. And there's nothing like that now. Yeah. There are just these vampires who look like robots from Westworld. You know, that sci-fi movie? They all look like that. They've all got these contact lenses and they all look like automatons. And they all have this kind of wooden, not really wooden, but more specifically metallic acting style. And I'm afraid I've been trying to work myself up into a kind of lenient sort of let's give it a break for the last time, but I can't do it. It's oh dear, it's just, I feel undead thinking about it, I'm sorry to say.
Andrew, there has been a progression though, without wanting to spoil it for all the millions of fans. Bella is now a vampire lady with a little daughter.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what this concluding part is about. It's about the sort of vampire nuclear family and how they sort of cope and defend their kid from the Volturi, I think they're called. I mean, but in general, I mean, I kind of have to agree with Peter that, you know, the whole thing is so ploddingly serious and laborious. It is like watching a sort of frieze painting that hardly moves for sort of two hours. But Peter's right to say there are flashes of fun. I mean, for example, there's this scene very close to the beginning when Bella first sort of experiences the sort of hypersensitivity of being a vampire, and it's a scene of her sort of running at sort of breakneck speed through the forest, which works really well. And Michael Sheen has sort of one or two very funny little moments as well.
Michael Sheen is the Volturi king.
He's the Volturi king.
He's the sort of leader.
Yes.
At one point, he kind of puts out the most bizarre cackle that I've ever heard. I mean, really
very
scary.
Weird. Do you want to try and repeat that cackle?
You probably have to cut this. He goes,
I know, it comes out of nowhere. He goes, ha 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 ha, and then he says, magnifico, and he sounds like he's Kenneth Williams. He sounds like he's gone into some weird vampire Pollinari.
It's a tale of teenage longing and abstinence, so presumably it chimes with the experiences of a lot of its consumers.
Yes, it does. However much teens are sexualized and represented as having a great, super cool social life or sex life, actually most of us aren't. And it kind of makes that heroic and interesting. And that's I think, part of the secret of Bella and her world-conquering success.
But it chimes in also with middle-aged people who aren't having much sex as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got that kind of demographic there too.
I mean, there are millions and millions of the silent army, or not so silent army, of middle-aged people who are into Twilight and find that it speaks to them, and that's even scarier.
These will irritate your eyes at first.
The main thing is not to move too fast.
Try taking a seat, crossing your legs. Maybe a tad slower.